Very welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nishu Goyal, and in today's video we'll be learning about what are reactive forms in Angular. So in Angular we are provided with two types of forms. One is called template driven forms, the other ones are reactive forms. In template driven forms we can create controls on the component template and bind the data using ng model. In template-driven forms, there is very little code for validations in the component class and they are synchronous. Now talking about reactive forms. In reactive forms, we create form controls as trees of the objects in the component class and bind them to the native form controls in the template. Whenever there is some immutable data model and the data is mapped to a database, that's when we use reactive forms. Okay, so coming to our project inside Visual Studio Code, the very first step to do is to import this reactive forms module class inside our app.module.ts. So we'll import that here, reactive forms module from Angular forms. Here it is. Angular forms, great. Now because we have imported it, we need to put it in the import statements, reactive forms module. Great, we are done here. The next step is to go to app.component.ts and use the creation of reactive forms module. So the first step to do is inside the class, let's try to start putting the statements like email equals to new. Now it's a type of form control. So we say form control, single quotes inside, semicolon. Now we need to import form control, so we'll simply import it like this. We'll do the same for password as well. So password equals, password equals new form control. Same way again. Great. Going to the view now. Inside the view, we want to create an input thing for our email and password. So let's do that. So inside the template of the component class, we want to put an input button, input, and let's say we'll use property binding here. So in that we'll say form control equals to email, because right now we're taking email as the property. And after that we need to take type as text and placeholder as enter email. So here we have done that. Type is equal to text and placeholder is equal to enter email. So closing the input tag here like this. We can do the same for password as well. So let's do it here itself. Input, we'll just copy the above statement and do it the same for password. Instead of email now we'll say password. And type again is equal to, let it be text, enter. Password will be the placeholder. Let's just remove this one from here and save it. So let us first change the type of password to password. And instead of putting email and password as form controls, we can also put them inside a form group. So let's see how do we do that. Here we'll say login form equals to new form group. And inside that group you can put these two, email and passwords. Great, just changing this equal to sign to a colon, same for the password. And now we'll close our login form. This is the syntax to follow while creating this. Inside the form group we will change the semicolons to commas now, like this. And now using it on the view, here. So here we can say form, then property binding we have to do. This is a tag form, so inside that we'll say form group, which is the name of the form group, and make sure of the capitals inside form group name. Form group equals to login form, which is the name of our form. Also F is capital here. This is very important to take care of. Now we'll close this tab after input and input password. So let's just close our form here. So this is how we use this login form on the view of our component. Now finally submitting the form, we will use event binding in the tag form. We'll say ng submit, which should equal to a method which does the submitting of the form. So let's give it a name, login user. This is the method that we'll be using to submit the form. Also we need to create a button which says login. So let's create a simple button which says login. So let's give the button a name, login. Now finally declaring this method method login user inside our class. Let us do that here, login user, and declare this method. Let's say console.log, and inside that let's simply give this .login form .status, and for the same thing let's say console.log this .login form .value, and the semicolon will be outside that. So you might have noticed that till now we had not added any kind of validators. So now is the time when we add validators to our email and password. So inside form control we'll say null comma validators required validators.min length is 4. So now we need to import validators to the import statement first, like this. So when we go to the import statement, see validators here is imported. The same thing we need to do for password as well. So let's simply copy this statement and do that in the password as well. But in this case we'll say max length should be 8 instead of min length, which is 4 for email. So now that we have given the validation for our email and password, we need to do it on the view as well. For that we'll be using structure directives. So we have already taken this input for email and input for password. So for email we'll create a div here. Let's create a div and close it at the same time. Inside div we'll use a structure directive, and we'll say ngIf equals to login form .get email .has error that it should be required, and if it is touched then it should say email is required. The same thing we'll do for password as well. So let's simply copy this statement from this div from here and put it for password as well. The only difference will be in the place of email here we'll say password, and has error .required, instead of that we'll say .valid. The password should be valid, and touched thing should be the same. We'll just say password here. Also it should not be equal to this, and here we'll say password should be 8 characters. Let's just say that as of now, and let's save. So that's all about forms. To learn more topics in Angular, refer to these 2 books by BPB Publications. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you everyone.